Okay, everybody, today we're going to be learning how to solve two-step equations. Before we go into two-step equations, first let's review how to solve one-step equations. So a one-step equation is a mathematical equation where you only need one step in order to isolate the variable. So here, what do we have to do to isolate x? Anshul?
You subtract 2 from both sides.
Exactly. So since 2 is being added to x here, we have to do the inverse operation in order to isolate x. In this case, that means subtracting 2 from both sides. Before we move on, does anyone have any questions on one-step equations? Athol?
What do you mean by inverse operation?
So the four operations that you can do are addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And each one has its opposite. So for example, in order to get rid of plus 2, you have to subtract 2. In the same way, in order to get rid of multiplying it by 2, you have to divide it by 2. So each operation has its inverse operation that you need in order to isolate the variable x. Okay, so the next thing we need to go over is PEMDAS. So there are 6 things that you can do in order to isolate the variables, and there's a series in which you need to take these steps. So first, you have to add or subtract in order to isolate x. So in our example here, we have 2x plus 2 is equal to 8. The first thing you want to do is look at if anything is being added or subtracted. In here, what's being added or subtracted? Aditya?
2.
Yeah, correct. So since 2 is being added, the first thing we need to do is eliminate 2 from both sides. What's the inverse operation of adding 2? Athol?
Subtracting 2.
Correct. So if we subtract 2 from both sides, we get 2x is equal to 6. The next thing we need to do is look at multiplication or division. So here, 2 is being multiplied. So we have to do the inverse operation, which is to divide by 2. When we divide both sides by 2, we get x is equal to 3. So you have to do the reverse of PEMDAS in order to isolate the variable. A common analogy that we can use in order to understand how equations work is a scale. So whenever we have a scale here, we have to look at what its values are, and since the scale needs to be balanced, both sides need to be equal. So here we have blocks that have a weight of x, that we don't know what it is. And there are 2 blocks with the weight of x, so 2x. And then we have 2 blocks whose weights are 1 pounds. So 2x plus 2 is equal to the weight of 8 1-pound blocks. In the same way, whenever we remove 2 from both sides, we need to remember that we have to cross out 2 from this side and cross out 2 from this side. If we eliminate 2 from both sides, that makes sure that the scale will stay balanced. In the same way, when we take out half of the blocks on this side, half of x, we have to eliminate half of the blocks from this side. In the same way, we can see x is still equal to 3. Okay, now we need to do a practice problem to make sure everyone still understands this concept. What's the first step we have to do to isolate x? Athol?
Add 9 to both sides.
That's a good guess. Does anyone know why you don't add 9 to both sides? Since a 9 is being added to 3x. Anshul?
You have to use the inverse of addition, which is subtraction.
Exactly. So since a 9 is being added, you have to do the inverse and subtract 9 from both sides. So we have next, what's the step we have to take? Aditya?
Well, it's multiplication with the 3 and the x, so you want to use the inverse, which is division.
Exactly. So we have to divide both sides by 3. And we get x is equal to 1 over 3. It seems like you guys have a good understanding of how to solve two-step equations. So now we're going to go into a little chant that we have in order to remember how to do this. Does everyone have the chant written down?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Let's all say the chant 2 times. There will come an occasion where you have to solve a two-step equation. The first act is to subtract. If you forget to add, you will be sad. When you divide, do it to both sides. Remember to multiply, you have to try. Okay, let's say it one more time. There will come an occasion where you have to solve a two-step equation. The first act is to subtract. If you forget to add, you will be sad. When you divide, do it to both sides. Remember to multiply, you have to try. Alright everyone, thanks for learning how to solve two-step equations.